Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to look at particularly the ES on a 3-minute chart for yesterday, which was Wednesday the 15th of October, because it shows an absolute perfect example of why I've chosen to invent the isolation approach to Elliott wave. Basically, I look at Elliott wave patterns in isolation rather than trying to fit in the patterns with higher and lower degree time frames and trying to fit in the pattern before and after. I look at basically just the pattern totally and utterly in isolation. I just find this works so much better in today's trading markets. A great example is on the ES yesterday. You can see here the pattern. Well, it's really difficult to try and uncover any kind of pattern in this particular falling market here. Really choppy, really horrible. However, if we look at yesterday from this reasonably significant high here, there was a big rally up here. So if we look at just this last decline down into the low, if we right mouse click over the low, put Elliott wave intermediate on, you can see the MTPredictor found a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But just look where the low of the day unfolded. It was right at the typical wave 5 WPT, you can see there. In other words, this was the most likely area where a wave 5 was likely to complete, and you can see that caught the low of the day absolutely perfectly. We then have a couple of tendencies that I teach in our training webinars. Once a 5-wave sequence is complete, the market will normally rally back to the DP from the prior wave 4. So you go back to the prior wave 4, right mouse click, decision point, and this is the area where the market is likely to rally to. As you can see, it rallied to that particular level. At that time the STF was strong, signaling that or indicating that we might get a further strength in the market. The next tendency is if this area is exceeded, then the tendency is to erase the entire prior wave 5-wave sequence, which is this decline down here, and go back to the DP from the start of the sequence. You should go back to the start of the sequence, which is here, right mouse click, place the DP on and drag that across, and that would have been the target for the rally off this low once that first area is breached. And just look where the market went to, up to that level there, and look, it reversed absolutely perfectly. So in isolation, the MTPredictor Elliott wave routines have nailed the exact low of the day and then nailed the exact high of the day. I mean, it's absolutely amazing when these kind of things work like this. For you guys who are thinking, well, that's all well and good, but all this can be done in advance. These DPs are leading indicators. They would be on the chart in advance before the market even gets there. And even this Elliott wave routine, you can actually do this in advance. I'll just show you that by, if I go to properties, and let's place a little bit more white space on the right hand side. Let's say you're about here, and let's say you put the Elliott wave routines on here, and you're thinking, oh, hang on a second, it could be a wave 4 as it starts to go down. So you want to project in advance areas of where the wave 5 is likely to end. So for this you go to down wave at the top, our tool here, Elliott wave or WPT down waves. It shows you how many clicks to make. So you do the first click at the start of the wave 1. You can see we've even got a tooltip hint down here, and you just keep on going down at the different waves, and therefore it will actually project, let me get the last click on, the area in advance that's the most likely area of where that 5-wave sequence is likely to reverse. So again, this can be on the chart before the market even gets there. Scroll forward, and as we know already, that's exactly where the low came in. So this is what's so good about this. They're leading indicators. So let's take this off. Now you know the wave 5 is in. We place the DP on there, on the chart in advance. Market goes up, market exceeds that. You go back to the prior, start of the prior sequence. There's your decision point on from there. The market goes up and hits that level nicely as well. Just take this right hand space off, so I've got a bit more space on the chart. So this is the beauty of using the MTPredictor isolation approach, is because it basically works as it says, in isolation. In other words, we look at just the wave that's unfolding here and now. We look at that to then uncover a potential trade setup. Now personally, I think it would have been very difficult to try and justify taking a buy setup off that low there, particularly as the markets have been down strongly for the last couple of days. It would have been a very brave person to do that. However, if you had and bought on that blue buy bar at the typical wave 5 WPT, run it through here to take profit at the decision point target there, it would have been a very nice trade. But personally, I think it would have been a very difficult one to do. Normally what we suggest is if you're trying to pick the end of a wave 5, you want higher time frame support. In other words, support on the 15-minute chart, and as you can see, if I place the DP on from there, we were actually well through that. So actually it looked at that time the large degree trend was down. So personally I think, even though in hindsight looking at this, it worked out absolutely perfectly and was a brilliant example of the isolation approach in action, I think it would have been very difficult for anyone to try and justify taking a long trade there. Personally, I think there was a better trade setup if you were looking on the long side, and for that it was on the Russell Index. Let me show you why. If I go to the Russell Index, remember we go to the higher time frame chart to start with. So if I go out to the 15-minute chart, we place our DPs on the 15-minute chart. So we would have gone back to this prior pivot low, place that on, and as you can see that would have given support. Remember, this is in advance, and as you can see the market came down and tagged that low absolutely perfectly. Our target would have been the DP from the prior high up here, so this would have been our target. Therefore the market is rallying off this support level up into the high here potentially, so therefore we'd be looking for buy setups. Whoops, so I didn't mean to go to the 2-minute chart, I meant to go to the 3-minute chart. So on the 3-minute chart there would have been a buy setup here. You would have taken this and you would have actually had a losing trade. Losing trades are okay as long as they're kept small and under control, which is what our position sizing does. But we don't just look at the 3-minute chart, we also look at the 5-minute chart. So if we look at the 5-minute chart, you can see that we actually had another trade set up a bit later. I'll just clear that off because there's my analysis from yesterday on there already. We actually had a buy setup coming here. Remember, we're not looking at the STF color for the more experienced users. We're looking at the higher time frame support. You can see it came in beautifully there. Large degree trend is up. Therefore, you'll be looking to go long at this particular level here. We're aiming to try and go up to that target up there. The market didn't reach it, so you would have actually been stopped out on close, which was for a nice 5.5 hour profit. Maybe as the market was getting sort of towards the end of the day and the volume was increasing, you might have decided that actually I'm going to trail just below the 1 bar lows, and if you had have done that you'd have locked in 7.2 hour profit. But I want to in this video show you the sort of the least profitable outcome on this, just so we don't try and exaggerate things. But you see how that is different, in that because the 15-minute chart gave a very nice clear clean support there, initial rally up, we're then looking for buy setups. The DP buy setup there would have given you a great one. Remember that TS1 would have been the same place as our TS3 on the 3-minute, so that would have actually produced a -1 hour loss. -1 hour loss kept small and under control. The next buy setup there would have given you a profit of 5.5 times greater than the initial risk. In other words, 5.5 R. So a very, very nice trade there, catching that rally later in the day. But the main reason for doing this video today was just to highlight you the MTPredictor's isolation approach. In other words, where we look to, just take that off, where we look at Elliott wave patterns in isolation. And yesterday, like I said at the start of the video, was one of the best examples I've seen for a long time. A lovely clear 5-wave sequence going down with the low of the day yesterday right at the typical wave 5 WPT. There it is, right at the typical wave 5 WPT. The tendency from there is then to rally into at least the DP from the prior wave 4. If that's exceeded, which it was exceeded then, it erases the entire prior 5-wave sequence. You place the DP on from the start of the sequence, and that is the area where the market is likely to go to. And as you can see, that actually nailed the low of the day absolutely perfectly, and also the high of the day there absolutely perfectly as well. So the tendency worked out, well, absolutely beautifully yesterday. There hasn't been a better example like this for quite a while now. That's why I wanted to show you this, to show you why MTPredictor uses my unique isolation approach to Elliott wave, and this gives a great example of how well Elliott wave can work when you look at the patterns in isolation and don't try and fit them in with higher time frames or what happened before, what happened afterwards. Remember, trading is only about trying to identify low risk trade setups, is not trying to project the future. So this is a great example of the isolation approach in action on the 3-minute ES yesterday.